Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to Forza Horizon 5. It's that time again to talk about Wheelie Tunes because I'm seeing a lot of questions on Facebook about Wheelie Tunes from PlayStation 5 players, I think. Older players generally have some idea how to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually give you guys a more advanced tutorial than what I did years ago when I first started doing a lot of Wheelie Tunes because I've learned more and there are more information I could share with you. Okay, so first things first, settings. Transmission doesn't really matter as much, even though I tend to use manual with clutch for a lot of my drag racing, which also many of the tunes have wheelies. Automatic, manual with clutch, that doesn't really matter as much as getting a wheelie on a car, but it does matter in the sense that your gear ratios, depending on specific cars, may have to be changed. What is also important is the steering. Apparently, a lot of people like to use simulation steering, but simulation steering makes it so the car spins. You cannot use simulation steering to get wheelies as easily. Notice my car was doing just fine earlier. It'll still do the reverse wheelie, but it's spinning a lot more. So you want to use standard steering for the most part when you're trying to pull wheelie tunes. This grips better. Why? It's a video game. There's nothing we can tell you as to why it does it. It just does it. Okay, so this is the next part. How to build a car. Well, you want to build your car to have the highest possible grip with enough horsepower so that it can pull wheelie, right? To do that, you go to your custom upgrades, and first thing you do with any cars, you want to find a car that can, one, get jacked up pretty high, and two, has generally short wheelbase as a beginner trying to learn wheelie tunes. As you get more skilled into fine tuning, you can go for supercars and other cars, but in the beginning, pick something easy. This little A-bars is great, but let me give you a different one from Ford that a lot of people tend to have and use, and that is the old Bronco. Okay, and also any of these guys that are short wheelbase can possibly be good at wheelie, but let's stick with something easy like the Bronco 1975. The other one that everybody uses is the GMC Jimmy. I think that one, because you get it from the what's it? You get it from barn finds. So therefore, that's an easy car to do. But let's use the 1975 Ford. It has all the criteria for a great wheelie car. It's jacked up. It's short wheelbase. It has engine swaps that gives you plenty of power. Okay, in fact, one of the more powerful engine swaps at 1750. This is another thing to note. If you're drag racing these, obviously, in the open drag racing without limitation requirements, you want something like this one where you have 1750 horsepower and low weight. Other engines can work just as well for wheelie tunes because the 6.2 liter V8 is a great engine for a lot of cars to just get it to wheelie, but you're not going to drag race those. You're not going to be fast enough. It's also a little bit lighter, but you do need to upgrade it all the way so you can have the full horsepower. So it's power and grip. Those are the two key components to make the car pull a wheelie. If you don't have either, you're not going to get a wheelie. A 300 horsepower car is going to struggle to pull wheelie no matter what chassis it's in, even if it's a very light one. Upgrade the engine, upgrade whatever parts are needed, and you have enough horsepower now. The rest of the stuff, the main thing is suspension. You want the car jacked up. The lower suspension that's non-adjustable wouldn't be good. You need adjustable and you need it jacked up. So rally suspension is the key one that most wheelie tunes will use for the obvious reason that because it jacks the car up higher and you can get the softer springs. Those are two key components to getting a wheelie tune. You want adjustable transmission. Which trans? Well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. The 10-speed, believe it or not, in some applications, because of the way the gear ratio changes, you can actually get some harder to wheelie cars to wheelie using a 10-speed, but you should be able to do it most of the time with a standard 6-speed or 4-speed, because first gear is the most critical, and the rest really doesn't matter as much, unless you're going for one of those show-off wheelie tunes where you're going to be in a wheelie for 2-3 years, that's a whole different, more advanced situation. But adjustable transmission. Tires. Drag tire has the most launch grip. The other tires, they do show 10, like slick race compound. On some cars that probably could work, but generally speaking, you want drag tires. You also may want more width. Generally, with most of the wheelie tunes, you're going for the highest grip, so you don't really care about how it impacts your performance as much. You're just trying to get enough grip to get the car into the air. Okay. This stuff here, not necessary. Okay, you don't need downforce. Obviously, we're not trying to keep the front end down. We're actually trying to get it up. So, engine swap, and then having the right suspension, right tires, right transmission. Those are your key upgrade components. The rest, lighter weight doesn't hurt you, obviously. Lighter weight means you can probably get the car going with less grip and therefore less chance of spinning. So yes, you do lighten the car as much as you can as well. Drivetrain. Rear wheel drive is fine if you just want to pop wheelies in one direction. All wheel drive is fun because you can actually pop wheelies in 2 directions with most cars using the same exact tuning method that I'm going to show you now. Talking about the tuning. So if you want the car to wheelie, you need to have the grip, right? We keep emphasizing the idea that it has to grip. Grip in the rear, tires have the best grip around 20 psi, heated up. Most drag guys will tell you just put it to 15. It's easier. 16 is fine. It's the same thing. But you basically want the highest grip point with the tire pressure, which is usually on the lower side. Gearing is very important. We're going to have to come back to this because you want the gearing at a point where the car will shoot up hard or launch hard without spinning. And you need to play with this really to get to that. So we'll get back to here, but you want to tune your suspension before you come back to your gearing. Alignment, it doesn't really matter that much with cars that are good at wheeling. Some cars, a little negative rear camber, give it that extra touch of grip, could help. Anti-roll bars, not as important either. If anything, for wheelie tunes, you're almost better off with no anti-roll bars. Just let it wiggle and waggle because that may get it to grip enough to kind of lift the front end. But stiff, I use that mostly because I'm doing drag tunes off of these as well. This is actually a drag tune setup that I'm readjusting just for the purpose of today to show you for wheelie. Now, important springs. Whichever side you want to have lift, that side has to have the soft springs. Springs are very important because very stiff spring settings are great for getting a wheelie because it makes the one end stiff so the other end kind of lifts up. This is counterintuitive. You would think you would want the rear to squat with softer springs and the front to be stiff so the car would lift the front. It's actually reversed in the game. The softer front and the stiffer rear is what you need to get the car to lift. Why do I have it here and not all the way there? Because spring also impacts the ability of the rear tires to grip when you initially launch. The stiffer the spring, the more likely you get wheel spin. The softer the spring, the less wheel spin on an initial launch. But you want enough stiffness also to make sure the car can kind of spring up the front, right? So this is an important one to play with on most cars because if you put it here and it starts to spin like crazy and your gearing here is already way out here and you don't really want to go past 100 miles an hour in first gear for most wheelie tunes, then this is the part you got to play with. You have to lower spring rates to try to get the car to hook. Differential is another one. Some cars really hate 100% differential. They just spin. You could lower it to a lower differential lock where it doesn't lock the wheels right away. And you're basically doing a one-wheel wonder. But the one-wheel wonder, believe it or not, still gets you hooked. And if you hook, you'll lift. And that's the important part there. So 100% on some cars, lower on others. So spring and differential for grip purposes, you're going to play with that. But then dampening comes into play. Dampening is important. The higher the rear rebound, the better it is for most cars to get a lift off. Now, there are 2 ways to tune the bump. You can tune bump stiffness the same way, with the rear bump really stiff, or slightly less stiff if you're spinning to get the car to lift. That's one strategy. Many cars can also run just front bump stiffness and still lift just fine. The difference is this: front bump stiffness prevents the car from bouncing when it lands. It doesn't really impact the lifting off. So what you're really doing is you're just softening all this and mainly stiffening that for the purpose of trying to get the rear to hook and lift up. So we're doing it with no bump in the rear, and if you notice, it doesn't matter, it still works. But notice how much the car bounces. That's because without the bump, you're just doing, bumping, you know, bouncing like that. Now, if you do the bump dampening, what it does is, if you put it together to the same, what you'll find is after the front lift, it'll land smoothly, like that. Okay, that's what the front bump does. Now, for drag tunes, that's quite important. For wheelie tunes, you know, if anything, you don't care because you want it to bounce, bounce, bounce. Rear bump stiffness sometimes is applied, or many times is applied, to get the rear to kind of lock down harder and therefore easier to get a wheelie tune as well. So that's really the bump stiffness tuning. Again, the more you put it to the right, the higher this is, the more likely the car will spin, because again, it's trying to apply all the grip into the back without the ability to let go. Okay, so you're gonna get that straight up. What happens if the car spins is you're gonna, let's say we put the gearing more aggressively here, and when you put it too aggressive, and this might not be enough yet, let me see. No, this is still working. This car loves to wheelie, so it's got really good grip. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it like here, right? So if you get to the point where, I guess not. All right, it's too grippy a car for that. So if you get it to a point where your gearing is so aggressive that the car is actually struggling, what you're gonna do is you're gonna start lowering. Let me try to show you on a car that's much harder to wheelie, which will demonstrate that better. Let me see. I have some of these muscle cars are much tougher when it comes to getting a wheelie tune out of them, and they are actually better for demonstrating the problem with spinning. Right, so here we have a Chevelle, which really in theory should be a great wheelie car, but in practice in this game, these guys actually struggle a lot more than you think to get wheelies. Now, as you can see, I can get this car to do it, okay, but it's kind of tough. Now, when it comes to it, this car is much more sensitive to where the gear ratio is. Let's remember where we have it, 2.69. Okay. Oh, I just screwed it up. Hold on. Let's not totally mess up my drag tune here. Not that it's quick, it's actually kind of slow. But so with this car, if you put for more aggressive gearing and you try to launch, it'll get a lot more of the spinning. Notice it's not as willing to lift. It's now just spinning. That's what I'm talking about. Now with this one, if you look at my spring rate, I already have it very low. If I have the spring rate way up here, even if I put the gearing back to that 2.69, it's still going to spin. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about having the spring rates have to be, it just spins. It'll do a little and then it'll just spin. See, no wheelie. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with dampening and spring rates being lower. Sometimes will get you the lift you need. Sure, these numbers start to look worse and worse. That's because in theory you're not going to be able to pull off a good launch, but when it wheelies like that, it defies that number. It's actually pretty quick. I'm going to put a separate video up about that with a rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive tuning as far as drag racing goes, you'll find that rear-wheel drive with the wheelie grip launch easily matches most all-wheel drive setups. Now if you notice, I'm lifting again. I'm not having issues with grip. So that's the key. The spring rates, the dampening, the differential, everything had to be lowered on this car because it's a much harder car to get grip on. It just doesn't want to hook, and that's using the widest rear tires and everything, but it just hates it when it comes to gripping. Now, I'm using automatic transmission here, okay? Auto trans is fine, but this car was actually tuned for a different transmission setup, the manual with clutch. It doesn't change much when it comes to using a manual. It just means that you're going to be launching a little differently. If you launch full RPM, you're going to spin too. So again, this is designed for certain RPMs. This is where gear ratio comes into play. If you're going to use different transmission setup than manual with clutch, and you're not launching at the RPM that I normally do, which is with the manual with clutch, it'll be around 2K. Oh, sorry, not this one. I used the clutch here. So 4500 is what I use to get the full, beautiful lift. Okay, you saw in automatic I can get the lift, but it won't be the same. That's because the gear ratio is designed for this RPM to start, not 0 RPM to start. So, okay, so that's how you get that beautiful wheelie launch. Now you can obviously still do it in automatic, but it doesn't have that cool long first gear pull that you would see. So how would you fix that if you were planning to do this just for an automatic car? Well, you go to settings, and remember standard. I need to emphasize this. If you put this in simulation, this won't work at all. So if you put it into automatic, and you know you're launching like this, and the car's sort of lifting but not totally, gear ratio. This is where you're going to start putting a little more aggressive gearing in. Doesn't have to be a whole lot, just has to be enough to, okay? And at some point you'll see it. You'll actually notice the car lifting harder without losing grip. Ignore the 0 to 60. That's not important when it comes to what we're trying to do here. Okay, if it spins too much, you already hit too much gearing. So somewhere between where we had it initially at 2.69 and where we just put it is it's going to be the sweet spot for this. Okay, so right now it's too much spinning. So this is where I have to do a lot of messing around with the gear ratio and other factors to try to really get something to work right. This is why a downloaded tune oftentimes does not work as well as you would hope. Okay, so we're struggling a little bit here with this. So that 2.69 actually worked pretty good. At 2 point, so we'll put it to like 2.75 and try again. Again, the auto transmission without launch control is a little trickier. One thing I can do is I can put launch control on and see if that'll help. I need to see where the launch control puts the car though. Let's see. 3,500 is not bad. 3,500 is a little bit less than the 40 something. So what we can do is we can do this to help try to get this car to lift a little harder. I'm going to bump that up. There it is. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not as dramatic as when I use manual with clutch, but with the launch control leads, you're getting a full front lift. There's probably going to be a little more gear ratio that could be used here. And this is basically why I don't like to share code my tunes. What happens is you get my tune, and depending on the situation, like season to season, and different part of the ground here, the grip changes. The stuff that works great today may not work at all tomorrow. And a downloaded tune, because you can't change it, you're kind of screwed when it comes to trying to get this set up for it. So if you insist on getting my tune, I think I have them saved as, a lot of my tunes are saved only as drag rear wheel drive wheelie is this one. What I do is I make it easier for people to find it. Instead of having to get my share code, okay, let me, I don't need to install this, huh? Let me go back, yeah, oh, let me resave it. Well, actually, let me do this. Let me install it and then resave it, because I don't want to screw up my original settings. Right, so this is probably my 2.69 gear ratio. The main thing I'm saving is the gear ratio and the spring rates and all that fun stuff. So, yep, this is 2.69. So what I do is when I save my tunes like this, and I can just save it over this one. Instead of worrying about, yeah, we'll override it. Instead of worrying about giving you a share code, what I do is I add in the description Maxthegamer. So by doing that, okay, if you want to find my tune, all you have to do is go to search and put in description Maxthegamer and search. And there it is. Drag rear wheelie. Drag. Wow, I got two of them. Jeez. Oh, so it doesn't actually delete my other one. How nice. All right. So this is why I have like hundreds of tunes out there, because every time I redo it, it still saves it somewhere out there. But if you type Maxthegamer, you'll find my tunes. That applies to pretty much every car I do. I'm updating all my tunes with Maxthegamer in the description, so you can find the tune that you want. So that is the advanced, I guess, Wheelie Tune tutorial. If you still have questions, I guess you're going to have to chat with me and or post comments in the video in order for me to give you more details. And I'm going to give you guys one cool thing before we finish the video, and that is what you can do forwards, you generally can do in reverse. Okay, so if you want to do a reverse, you do it this way. You reverse the stuff here. Okay, so we're doing it this way instead. Gearing doesn't change. So now we can reverse wheelie. Woohoo! Okay, now some cars are so easy to wheelie that you can just do something like this. Put the differential like towards the middle, okay, and then you can get wheelie both ways. That's what the deal is with that A-bars, because it'll, I mean, this one a little trickier still. I think I need to, oh wait, spring rates, that's what I messed up, sorry. Yeah, you got to get rid of that. So if you make it just kind of crazy bumpy all around, okay, and you got your you can usually get the car to do it both ways without much of an issue. However, we need to kind of get this. Let's just put it to here. The 50% ratio is a little rough. I mean, I think particularly for the front. Yeah, here we go. I mean, it's got a little bit of grip issues going on here, especially with the front. Let me tweak that real quick with the differential. We'll just move the differential back low and put this to 50%. Okay. There we go. All right. So you can do a kind of a front and back wheelie car. Easier with manual with clutch, of course, but it's doable. Okay, because this car tend to like rear gear wheelie anyway, you can put more in the front like that, so you can get But that's, I mean, that's just trying to be obnoxious more than anything. I'm just I forgot how much fun this is. I really do enjoy this. This is just, it's stupid, but it's so much fun. All right. I need to stop. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. All right. That's the video. I hope you guys liked the video and you learned something about more advanced wheelie tuning from this video. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you like this wheelie stuff, or I'm doing a lot more drag racing as well, tuning for that. Feel free to check back in on my channel. I'll put up more videos, and we're gonna get more into drag racing stuff with some of the future videos. If you like the video, leave a like. If you like my channel, again, subscribe, hit the bell, and you get notified when I put up new videos. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.